Thank you for joining us right here on Google Plus for a really important topic that I think we could all benefit from. It's how to use Google Plus to advance your overall search inside of Google for hospitals and practices. And joining me is the always impressive Kathi Browne from Browne Knows. Hi, Kathi.
Hi, Todd.
The famous hockey player Wayne Gretzky always said, to be great, you don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where the puck is headed. I think it's clear now that, or at least common knowledge amongst my friends, that Google's using Google Plus as this little crystal ball that it looks inside of and finds information to determine who really deserves to be on the top of search. Google Plus was built as the backbone or the spine that relays information, and it's so cool that this happens to work for, medical fans like you and I and those in the audience. But Google Plus was built as a spine to relay information to determine who deserves to be on the top of Google search. And it's incorporated in everything that Google does. Google Plus was created to give Google something its algorithm never really had, and it never had it organically before, and that's user authenticated information that Google can look into in a proprietary way to determine who is the most macho in each space. So who's got the most plus ones, follows, shares, average length on video, and it does all that because it allows people like you and I and everybody watching to verify and validate who deserves to be on the top of Google. If you and I were inside of Google, Kathi, and we were part of the team to determine the long-term strategy, I think we would be pulled into a meeting one day where we said, look, what is our overall goal at Google? And that is always to provide the most relevant search results for each individual user. If people like Todd and his colleagues in traditional search can easily get their content to the top, how valuable is our search engine? And what is the long-term sustainability of our search engine's value if the information on the top is easily manipulated? So by adding this human vetting element known as Google Plus into Google's algorithm, it got something that it never really had, which is really a valuable tool to determine quién es más macho, who's the most macho in each space, who's got the biggest followers and influence, and those are the people that deserve and have earned the right to be on the top. Google thinks like high school, so you have to be in the process of helping Google determine who are the coolest kids on campus in each business vertical, and say what they're really looking for is pieces of content that your target audience and your industry can verify. You verify, validate, and be able to, show that it's authentic information. You agree with that, Kathi?
I think that one of the most important things for a hospital or practice to do in the first steps when they're putting content out there is to engage people with that content, even in the lead-in sentence. It's important to ask, what is the response of someone who's going to read this content so that I'm not putting it out there and it just stays stagnant, that I'm inciting a response.
That information then needs to be circulated through the industry if you want it to be effective, right? Or whoever the target client or customer is. It could be a patient for hospitals, and it needs to be influential. The way that we do it is we do it through video. So all of our content starts with video because video gets the best search results. It creates these indicators of relevance inside of our target audience's niche, and it's very easily shared. So video gets the highest share rates, it gets the highest average time on video, all the elements that Google's looking for to determine, ranking on the top. I noticed, Kathi, that inside of this space, in the hospital or medical practice space, you seem to be not only a key influencer, but somebody who brings a lot of information to the table. Tell me why that's important for people that are watching if they want to be a thought leader in their space.
I started out really focusing on social media and Twitter back when it was just growing. And back when it was small, you could provide information and people were out there with you, following you and looking for that information, and they were literally waiting for the next tweet. Well, now that's noise. You bring it to Google Plus and you imagine the same thing, that it's becoming larger and larger, and people can no longer just wait for you to share something. You have to have something so useful that they want to come and check on a regular basis wherever that information is. So it's important to bring new information to the table and then have them engage in that, so that that information is seen over and over again as it hits the stream, as people comment on it, as they share it. That's all important.
But how can hospitals do that to reach out, to engage, and influence patients?
Well, I think that you do it beautifully with one of the examples is breast cancer answers. Sorry, that's hard to say. Breast cancer answers. Because you give them the video content, you engage them live with the broadcast, and there's lots to talk about afterwards. You also are giving experts. So it's not just you going out there and reading and repurposing what someone else did. You have original content from people that are respected. I don't think you can do that a whole lot better, except to take that same information and then reshare it into a community that is populated by a specific target market.
Our goal with our clients is to make sure that they're owning the conversation in their space. Now, I don't mean sucking all the oxygen out of the conversation, but I mean being a thought leader, a major influencer, the point of contact that a patient should go to when they're looking for information. And by default, your experts then become, the thought leaders and gurus, and we all develop relationships by making eye contact. And you do that with video, and we make relationships by sharing our information. And I've never met Oprah before, but I've seen her on TV 1,000 times, and I feel like I have a personal relationship with her. Don't tell my wife, but I feel like I've got a relationship with her because I see her, and she comes from a point of and a position of influence. And so we have to make sure that our rock star doctors and our lead researchers are out there explaining topics in simple terms. If we're a hospital or a practice and we want to really be the thought leader and drive new patients and help improve people's lives, then we've got to be a thought leader in Google Plus. And by not being on Google Plus and not sharing your information, you're going to be irrelevant inside of Google search. And I don't know how many hospitals or medical practices can afford to not have that valuable seat at the table on the top of Google search.
If a hospital has a strong presence on Google Plus and they focus on that, is it possible for a hospital to build the relevance of all of their individual physicians so that each physician feeds into the other to build that relevance and that influence, that they could actually create their own footprint and their own presence that can be that significant because of what they've done as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I want to show you a couple of things. A moment ago, you talked about breast cancer answers. This campaign in 2012 went viral, and it really put our experts on the map and made them rock stars, the rock stars that they are. It just gave them a platform. In just 6 hours, we're getting really impressive shares and likes and follows and so on. One of our clients came to us and said, "Hey, Todd, what if we send you to the largest breast cancer conference of the year, the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium?" And our sponsor, Oncotype DX, had us go there, and we did live interviews with the biggest names in cancer when they came off the podium. Here's the search results we got from that live hangout. Now, if you put in the key phrases that we were attracting or reaching out for, then you'll see that we're almost every search result on the top for different for the conference. And Kathi, there were 250 members of the media there. We're owning the conversation. And then what we ended up getting out of that, we only had 4,500 people that watched it live, but we got 163,000 total views over 60 days. The way that that content is engaged, the way that it's pushed through Google Plus, your target audience verifies, validates, and authenticates your information, and then you start seeing it really show up on the top of Google search prominently. Pretty cool, isn't it?
One of the most important things about the new way that Google is searching is that they're looking for answers to questions. And yours is based on typical questions that people ask about breast cancer. So you probably very well tapped into people Googling for answers about breast cancer, and it went directly to you because you actually ask the questions and then you answer it.
When I was diagnosed in 2008 with a heart condition, it was through videos like this that I discovered and self-diagnosed myself and then got myself to the doctor. This information, when I get onto Google, is information that everybody types in. When you're trying to find people, when you're a business, a practice, or a hospital, and you're trying to find people on Google that are your target customer or patient, that everything is supply and demand, and you have to regularly be producing content that and that when you produce content, that's supply. So you have to regularly be supplying content that your target patient is demanding when they get onto Google. When we do our interviews, every question we ask becomes its own standalone 3-minute video clip. And the reason is people don't watch 30 minutes. And people won't watch our whole conversation that we're having today. They'll drop in and they'll be a part of it, and they'll watch it, and then maybe later on they'll come look for something. But how you repurpose it and get that information back out to your target customer or patient is really important. And then Kathi, how you use it, and you know this, and this is your territory, is how you do it on search and the way you hashtag to get that information in front of larger people.
Well, hashtags are really starting to become more important than they used to be. It used to be that Twitter was the only place you used hashtags, and it was used to track tweet chats, it was used to track trending topics, and even some humorous things. If I had, in this case,
Right.
If I had glass was one of them that they did with the Google Glass contest. But Google picked up on that, and Google started using and recognizing hashtags, and people in Google Plus started using hashtags. And now with the most recent update, Google is even automatically hashtagging the posts. If you don't put your own hashtags in, they try to come up with about 3 that they think match, so that when someone is looking at a topic and they see a hashtag, or maybe they're interested in that topic, they have the ability to click on that little gray box in the upper right corner, and if they want more information on that hashtag, it'll flip the card over and show matching topics that also have that hashtag. So if you have breast cancer as a hashtag, and someone likes what you posted and they want to know more, they can click on that hashtag, the card flips over, and they'll see related posts talking about breast cancer. It's a great way not only to send people to more information, but to get found because someone found one piece of information and then it led to you.
Give me a strategy on how to use those hashtags to reach the largest number of people in a trending topic or in a specialty with your content, to make sure that you're being discovered by people that are actually using Google Plus for that type of information search.
Well, there are 3 ways to do it. If you want to do it the more analytical way, you go to a website called Hashtag Project. And in Hashtag Project, there is a specific group of hashtags based on a specific healthcare topic or specialty. And it will list the hashtags that have been officially deemed official by people that have been in the know for a while. So if you want to go through that list and stick to those hashtags, the medical community uses those, especially on specific diseases and topics like that. Another way, and the way that I usually do it, even if I go through the other steps, I go to Twitter and I search for keywords like breast cancer, rehabilitation, whatever it is, and then I look down the stream at some of the people I consider credible and see what hashtags they're using, because I want to know what they're using, because they're probably establishing a pretty good audience there, and I can tap into that in Google Plus and on Twitter. And then the third way is to search in Google Plus and do basically the same thing to see what's there. And then when you're typing your hashtag, the trick is when you're typing your post in Google Plus, and you're done with your lead-in sentence or paragraph, leave a space, and then go down, put a hashtag in, and Google will attempt to start filling it in as you're typing. So if you know you want to talk about breast cancer, for example, you might start by typing the word breast, and it will attempt to show you a series of matching results that Google already recognizes as being used. Or if you start with the word cancer, it'll match, and you can decide if one of those drop downs are what you want to use. Then you can go from there. If you don't like what's available, you can always establish your own so that you have a way to go back to it, but you can have up to 3 hashtags that will be indexed the way I was talking with the card flipping over. So if you don't want Google to determine what your 3 hashtags are, put those hashtags in the bottom of your lead-in sentence before you click post.
One other thing to add to what Kathi said, it's really valuable to get into these streams and be a thought leader in the streams. And then the other thing that she brought up, which is super valuable, make sure that you are also thinking about the hashtags that a layperson would put in without knowing about these streams, because that layperson might be, well, they just might not be as versed yet, right? They're lay. So you want to make sure that you're in both environments and that you are a thought leader in those streams. Something I want to share, Kathi, is how you use these Hangouts. I don't know if a lot of people in the health space have figured out how to take a Hangout and then use it for their marketing purposes. So would you be okay if I showed a little example of how to do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. We do Hangouts all the time for our breast, colon, and prostate campaigns. And when we do the Hangout and the Hangout's over, that isn't the end of the marketing. It's actually the beginning. So for us, that's the start of the content creation process. So let me share my screen. Here's an interview we did with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If people only watch on average 3.5 minutes of video, but you do a Hangout, let's say you spend an hour, then you've wasted 56 minutes because you created content that most people will never enjoy. So my trick here is you want to then look inside of this Hangout and find golden moments where your expert, your rock star, is giving information. It's really every question that you think somebody's going to search on Google.
Is there a way that you structure your Hangouts so that it's easy to chop those up into small chunks? I've seen where some people specifically stop and they ask the question and they display the question and then they answer the question and then they move on, and that's not particularly attractive to watch. But I'm sure it's great for repurposing. Can you give any tips on how to make a video a little easier to break up?
So it's a trade-off, okay? What are you going to do with the content? If you just want to go and use a portion of your Hangout, and let's say you're not an editor, you can go onto YouTube and grab the video, because your Hangout starts here on Google+, but once you've connected your accounts, it's live and on demand inside of your YouTube channel. So you can go to YouTube and grab a share link for when each question starts. And then you can repurpose that just really, really quickly across social. So let's say you and I, for the sake of discussion, are in the 7th question of this Hangout. You can go into the start of each of the questions, grab an individual link, and share them over 7 days. And then that video, when somebody goes and clicks on it inside of Google Plus or Twitter or Facebook, will start exactly at the point that you set the link to start at. But what I also want to point out is there are serious advantages to doing it the harder way, which is downloading it, because ideally what you want to do is if we do one of these Hangouts and there are 15 questions, in 1 hour you can create, in 1 hour of content creation, you could create 15 article pages on your website. When we went to the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, we asked each person 5 questions, each expert. And then at the end of the day, we provided back 5 individual videos to each of the hospitals and organizations so they could then socially share it. But what we did is we put all those videos on our website. on breastcanceranswers.com. So when we gave them out to, let's say, the Mayo Clinic or the each of the MD Anderson, and they start sharing it socially, they're driving targeted traffic back to individual article pages that are already set up with a URL, on an individual URL for that individual question. So when somebody's getting onto Google demanding information, we've already supplied that information, and we use Google like eHarmony, making a love connection between the content that the patient is demanding and the content that we are supplying. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is the reason and the purpose that you take the extra step to make sure that you download and create individual clips, and because it expands your searchable footprint. There are serious benefits to using Google Plus, and you should be using video as the first opportunity. All content should be created and started in video first, because you can then repurpose it in so many different ways. Like, you can take the transcripts of your rock star doctor and then put that on an image and share it socially, some wise statement, and that's just a repurpose off of a video. Or you can take that video and provide it out to organizations and health causes that this medical niche is devoted to, and then get those organizations to do the marketing for your practice also. Because if you do a video with your rockstar doctor and then you give it out to the cause, they will put it up on their foundation site, which then expands your discovery footprint. A lot of companies just track a video. We track each individual question, and that allows us to know, oh, look, Angelina Jolie just had a prophylactic mastectomy. Let's go into our archive, pull out a prophylactic mastectomy question, put it out socially in a matter of minutes, and then make sure that our experts are there as a thought leader as soon as a breaking medical news story happens. Can't do that if you just have a full interview.
A lot of hospitals and practices have no marketing budget whatsoever. How do you convince someone? What do you say to someone to convince them that money should be spent to market in the way we're talking about when they're used to not having to market at all?
The way hospitals recruit physicians and specialists is, they're bringing them to that location to make sure that that location becomes a destination or the thought leader in that space. It's just an extension to the commitment that they made to the physician or the department to make sure that it can be profitable. At Wirebuzz, we don't do any traditional marketing. You will not see a print ad or any type of Google AdWords. We do content that gets engaged socially that then dominates search because it's been verified and validated by social audiences in our target niche. Now, for a practice or a hospital that's trying to really be the thought leader or the destination or the gurus in a topic, I think it's absolutely essential that they are, in a very targeted way, using resources to make sure that they are really getting a return on investment. Some of them don't have an enormous amount of budget, but it is important for them to make sure that people, when they get on to search, that when they're looking for Mesa, Arizona and urinary incontinence, they know how to find an expert that's near them that's of authority. So that's part of the game that we play. And for people who don't have a budget, though, and they do have employees and bodies inside their office, I think this Hangout on Air gave them a lot of free tools that, with the right skill sets and strategy, can help a hospital or a medical practice do very, very well in their Google search by engaging deeper and more authentically inside of Google+. Do you agree with that?
Definitely. And then allowing that same content to go outside of Google Plus and go everywhere.
And what we do is, and I'll just tease it without giving too much, what we're doing, Kathi, is we're getting a very small amount of time from a physician or an expert in a month or um, every 2 months. And with that, in 1 hour, we can create 15 to 18 video clips that then gets repurposed socially for them throughout the month. So their commitment's like 1 hour. This is the reason it needs to start with video, because the spoken word coming out of the expert's mouth will come out in little 2-minute drops. And if you put your expert, if you really value your expert, you can't have them write a blog. Because in writing a blog, they're experts. They're going to give you perfectionist quality. So they're going to spend 3 hours to write a 400-word blog that nobody wants to read. But if you did it in video, in that 3 hours, you could create 45 blogs, or in 1 hour, 15 blogs. See how I use my University of Arizona math? And then what we do with that is then engage socially over months with that content. So whenever I hear that an expert's time is valuable and we have them writing blogs or coming up with content, I think it's an absolute waste of the time, because it's pretty obvious when you come from a search perspective what questions patients are asking for every given condition. It's not a difficult trick, because it's all supply and demand. So if you can use the search analytic tools to figure out what the demand is and what patients are craving for, which just so happen to be the same questions that they're asking physicians every day. So by creating a frequently asked question library, you're capturing content and supplying what patients are going to be demanding when they get into search. I think it would be beneficial if we walked people through the Kathi Browne steps to socially engaging. You do something, Kathi, that's unique and special in this space. Your community shows. I would love to watch a presentation where you were explaining how to do that. And I actually think it would be something valuable that my team, I'd put them in front of the computer and make them watch, because it's rare they get to learn from a Kathi Browne.
You flatter me. Well, I would be happy to go through that. There's a lot. It depends on how much time you have to invest in it, but there's definitely an art to it, and it does work.
This is the key that people watching should be able to take away, is Kathi seems to have a very natural ability to have a telephone conversation on these communities, where most people in our industry make the mistake of having a television broadcast. It's look at me, look at me, look at me, and yours is a two-way engagement telephone, not a television. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, without getting off to a whole topic of communities, I think one of the keys is I created the communities based on where I felt my niche was. So I think that any entity that wants to create a community needs to be thinking about where are you most comfortable, so that when you engage, you're engaging in a natural way.
Yeah.
That's really important.
So on behalf of Kathi Browne from She Knows, my name's Todd Hartley. It's been a real joy today to talk with you about using Google Plus and really owning Google Plus to help you dominate the conversation in Google search for your practice. And we'll look forward to talking with you in future Hangouts on air. Kathi, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Todd. You have offered so much great information here today.
It's a freakish passion of mine, and I'm glad to share it. Thank you, Kathi.